we have a couple of prayers.
Well, good evening. I call the regular meeting of the Ames City Council for February 10th to order. Hello, everybody. We're going to start with our fiscal year 2026-2027 budget wrap-up, and I'll turn it over to Brian.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first item up relates to public art and the art services. So as you'll recall, for the Public Art Commission, which handles the city's art collection, the requested budget includes $46,000, which is the same amount as has been provided to that commission for the past several years, which will then be divided amongst the different programs that the Public Art Commission hosts each year. For CODA, the Commission on the Arts, which finances through a grant process, performing arts activities and art agency activities. The City Council authorized a 3% increase, and that total is $260,567. With that amount, CODA reviewed applications from 23 agencies and has made recommendations for them that are included in the CODA packet memo that you received at the January 30th budget kickoff meeting. CODA is recommending awarding funding to those agencies of $253,815, with the remaining dollars, about $6,700, being held in reserve by CODA for spring and fall special project grants. And those are unique opportunities that come up throughout the year for projects that may have been an unforeseen need or opportunity. We have a representative from CODA here, Ferret. If any of the council members have questions about the CODA allocations.
Thanks, Brian. Any questions for staff or for the CODA representative?
Maybe just a general comment. I feel like this is perhaps the last year of sort of business as usual in the way in which we've done our budgeting. And I think it's important to stress really for CODA, for asset, that we can't guarantee what this process looks like for next year. And so for entities that have been reliant on the city's funding for their programming, they need to just pay attention very carefully to what happens with the legislature, because we certainly can't today sit here and guarantee the same level of funding. And so we've been able to have very generous increases, I think, through the years. I'm very proud of the level of funding we provided the arts and human services, but the public should be under no illusion that this is something that we can guarantee that will go on forever. So just want to make sure people are aware of that.
Very good. All right, move on to
So good evening. Over the last couple of months, the Asset Board has been very busy reviewing budget requests for 29 agencies for fiscal year 26 to 27. So this Asset Board is made up of 24 community members, and I want to recognize that 2 of our city folks are here today. So in the back, Becky and Aiden, you guys want to wave. So they have been busy doing a lot of really hard work, sifting through budget requests from the 29 agencies, and then each of the volunteers are assigned 1 to 2 agencies to visit as well, and they meet with the leadership team, they meet with the board, and they take notes and share that amongst each other. They have also been busy reviewing scorecard data, so this is performance measure data that the agencies report back to the Asset Board, and they have been looking through the 4 funder priorities. So there's 4 funders part of the asset process: the City of Ames, United Way of Story County, and ISU Student Government. So lots of work. In addition to that, they've spent 2 nights in January hearing from the 29 agencies, and then spent additional nights deliberating amongst themselves to come up with the recommendations that are before you today. So there's been a lot of great work that has gone into what is before you tonight. I can't thank the volunteers enough. I'm always amazed at their willingness to participate in this process and to really use their skills and knowledge to help us make these decisions. As I mentioned, the total ask from the agencies this year, there were 29 agencies overall that made requests, and the ask was just a little bit over 6.3 million, which is a little bit less than last year. But I don't think that's an indication at all that the demand has decreased. I think asset funder staff have done their best to really remind agencies to be thoughtful about their request and thinking about other revenue sources to fund their programs as well. So I don't think that the less amount in ask has anything to do with the less demand, but really just encouraging folks to make more realistic ask and diversify their revenue sources. Of the 6.3 million that was requested, about 81.5% of that is being recommended by the asset board overall. This is the total ask of the asset process. And the amount made available by all the floor partners is 5.5 million. So the city's contribution to that is $2,081,431, which is a 3% increase that you gave us authorization to do back in December. Overall, 27 agencies are funded in the next fiscal year in over 100 different service lines. So this is a huge impact to the community. And I have to say thank you to the council too for continuing to make this a priority. I think this is one of those areas where unless you're part of the process, you maybe don't even recognize that the city council is putting some funding towards. This was a challenging year, I think, for the asset board on a couple of different issues that I want to highlight tonight. There were 2 new agencies that became part of the asset process this year. So Creative Counseling Services and Nevada Food at First. In addition to that, there were 3 existing agencies that brought forward 6 additional services. This is a large amount of new requests coming to the table, and it's not normal for asset to see so many new services come to the table. So I think this is a new challenge for the board. Some of that we know is because of the federal changes and folks seeing cuts to their existing programs. And so they're looking to us as a local source to fund some of that. And some of it is just new programs that come online. The other challenge that I think the board wrestled with this year was just around emergency shelter services. So a couple years ago, the Salvation Army was willing to step up, and we thank them a lot for this, to run the hotel voucher program. But I think the asset volunteers recognize that this isn't a long-term solution to emergency shelter services. It's not a holistic approach either, and it's an expensive solution. And so they wrestled with what do we do this year again with that? Specifically regarding to the main shelter here in town, the Bridge Home, I think the volunteers were really conflicted on what to do there. So the Bridge Home is operating now through a management agreement with CIS, and we have seen some progress made. And so some volunteers wanted to recognize that effort by providing some funding, while others felt like it was still too many unknowns and incomplete information. So you really saw a clear split in that, but lots of deliberation, which is what I think is worth recognizing. At this time, there was no funding recommended specifically from the city's portion to the Bridge Home. Some other notable things about this year is that in regards to emergency shelter services, $62,814 was dedicated to Access, which provides shelter services, $30,000 to the Salvation Hotel Voucher Program, and then an additional $91,843 is reserved for emergency shelter services. So that's not specific to an agency, that hasn't been designated to an agency, but could be requested by any asset agency that's able to provide that service. Other things that are notable this year is that there was no funding recommended from any of the funders for NAMI. The city and United Way have already sequestered current funding amounts for that organization due to the lack of audits that they have provided. So we're working with NAMI to try to get that in place. And because of this kind of unique situation too, I think folks just felt like if you designate it to a specific agency, it sort of gets locked up. And so what the board recommended doing instead was reserving that amount for mental health services. So you'll see that in the recommendations as well. I think also notable this year is that we do see a decrease in the overall allocation to YSS. And the biggest reason for this is that their mental health outpatient service model has changed significantly. So the last couple of years, they have not been able to draw down their allocated amounts for the city. And then with the Ember campus coming online as well, I think they've changed the way that they administer that. So there was still a lot of outstanding questions at the time that the board met to make these recommendations, which is why you see a decrease there. Of the amount that was not allocated to a specific agency, so this would just be the remainder amount that was there at the end of the day. $56,002 was reserved for basic needs, so again, can be accessed by any agency that can provide the service. $36,000 reserved for mental health. $91,843 reserved for emergency shelter services, and then when we had this discussion about how much to make available to the asset process back in December, Council, you had approved reserving $100,000 $100,000 up front for case management services. So the plan for that would be to issue out an RFP for anyone who's able to provide that service in 26-27. In addition to that, there is $9,336 that we allocate for administrative cost. And so that's always kind of been a side cost. We have an admin assistant and then some tools and office equipment that we purchase as well. So I wrote you guys a long report that's available online, but I also wanted to show you just a different way to digest this information. Just highlighting some of the areas where the funding for 26 and 27 will go. So we often, when we do this we report it by the agency and their service line, but sometimes I think it's more helpful to see it in these larger categories that maybe is a little bit more digestible for the community. So as you can see up there, a significant amount of money goes towards daycare services. Another, $238,000 goes towards emergency assistance. $210,000 to emergency shelter services, $190,000 to out of school programming for youth and kids, $160,000 goes towards legal aid services, and so forth. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Paul. Questions?
That's really helpful, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Mayor, I don't have any questions, but I think it's worth reiterating what I said at our joint funder meeting, and that is we really appreciate the hard work of the volunteers to hold the line on accountability, because we have so many agencies that need funds that we really need to have recommendations based on the data that we receive and the meetings with the agencies. And so it's really tough, I'm sure, for the volunteers who all have such good hearts to not allocate funds when they're available. But we now have some flexibility with some additional funds that are reserved, and because of their hard work, we can make those kinds of decisions that we need to make. So thank you to the volunteers and to the admin staff that are working with them.
Other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Paul. Move on to outside funding requests. Brian?
So the outside funding requests are the types of requests that don't necessarily fit into one of our other categories of financial requests. This year, the City Council authorized a total of $365,000 for the requests that would come from the local option sales tax fund. There are some additional requests, one for the Ames Regional Economic Alliance workforce program and for parking meter waiver reimbursements that we recommend taking out of the hotel motel tax fund because they're related to economic development. Of those two, the parking meter requests, we have revised that number up a little bit from where it was at the December budget guidelines session. So it's up to 16,500, and that would be a sufficient amount to address all of the planned district-wide parking meter waiver days that have been requested through the outside funding request process. The outside funding requests are always a struggle to try to make recommendations for. We do have a set of criteria that are on the application that we use involving how unique the service being provided is, how it aligns with the city council's adopted goals and priorities, how broad-based the appeal is, and so forth. We've attempted here in the recommendations to offer a reasonable increase to the agencies that are asking an increase. There is one new request this year that was not funded last year, or one new requesting organization, I should say, that did not receive funding for the current year. And that's the Ames Foundation for a mural program. And so I believe in light of that new program, the council authorized a higher amount than it perhaps would typically have authorized for the funding for this year. So the recommendations are in the report that the council received on January 30th, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions there might be.
Thank you. Questions?
One further note. So this is simply tonight approving the amounts that would be included into the budget. Once we have those amounts, we will go back and work with the individual requesters to develop the contracts that will specify what services they're going to provide in exchange for that money. Since most of the organizations were not fully funded in their requests, we expect there are some aspects of their request proposal that will have to drop off. And so we've asked them in the application process to prioritize each of the individual deliverables, so we can simply drop off the lower ones in order to get to the level of service that can be financed with the award that you place in the budget tonight.
Thank you. Any other items that council wants to bring up under budget wrap-up requests? All right. We'll go ahead and open up public input on the capital improvements plan and on the budget. Is there anyone in the audience want to address council tonight on either one of those items? Seeing no one, we'll close public input. And I just want to echo what Councilwoman Betcher said to all those who are volunteers out there that serve on one of these either CODA or assets or public art. Thank you for your efforts. It's not lost on us. You help things move forward and do a lot of heavy lifting. So on behalf of City Council and our community, thank you for your efforts. All right, move on to item number 3 under the budget wrap-up. Final council decisions. Are there any amendments to the 2026 to 2031 CIP? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve the 2026 to 2031 CIP.
Move approval?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Is there any amendments to our current fiscal year adjusted budgets for 2025, 2026? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve the FY 2025, 2026 adjusted budget.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll move on to voting on a motion to approve adjusted budget as amended, including inter-fund transfers and general fund carryover funding. Corey, is there anything that you want to offer guidance on regarding that? Okay. All right, is there a motion to approve adjusted budget for FY 25-26 as amended, including inter-fund transfers and general fund carryover funding?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And that, let the record show, that would include.
Mayor,
Yeah.
just one bit of information I passed out, this paper here. Many of you remember, or some of you don't remember, that the Ames Intermodal Facility was actually constructed with a federal grant, 100% federal grant. It was really, the grant was in the name of Cyride itself, but it's technically a city asset. And part of the agreement was that both the university and the city would share in any shortfall from operations from this facility. One thing we've done is we've contracted with the parking division of Iowa State University, Mark Miller, who does a great job. He's really manages this facility for us. He sets the rates for the meter rates and also the rental rates for the facility. And I have before you what you see, the 26-27 budget for that facility. As you see, he's laying out a budget that will cover all expenses plus yield excess revenue about $40,000. Now, the important thing about that, all that excess revenue, you'll see in the lower left-hand column, is then placed in a reserve account. As you know, it's a relatively new facility, but when problems develop, infrastructure problems develop in a parking ramp, it's very expensive. So he's over the years, dating back to, what was it, 14, 15, believe it or not, able to generate excess revenue. So we've built that fund up to about almost $400,000. So we won't have to come back to the city and share the cost with the university of any capital improvements, hopefully in the near future. So I wanted to tell you about that. There is an obligation out there to make up the difference, both for operations or capital, but Mark Miller and his staff are doing a great job for it. So we're benefiting from a contract with the university to manage this facility. So I want to thank them for that.
This is just for information, correct?
Only information
Yep.
for you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I apologize, do we have to open up a hearing for this?
For what?
For the approval of this budget?
We already opened up a public input on capital improvement plan and the budget, and no one came forward.
But is it just for the prior budget year or for this coming budget year?
It'd be for both.
Okay, just want to make sure it's clear.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
And this will not be the last time people will have an opportunity
Sure.
to go ahead and give input on the 26-27 budget. But the one that we just amended is going forward as is. Yep.
Yeah,
Thanks.
just a reminder too, we'll have a public hearing on March 24th regarding the property tax levy. And then we have the formal adoption, the statutory adoption on April 7th. So we'll have two more opportunities for a public hearing at that time. Yeah, so at both of those hearings, the city council will have the option to not increase the property tax rate or increase the budget, but certainly at that time, should they desire, could decrease the property tax rate or the proposed property tax rate or any other expenditures at the hearing on April 7th.
And if it's not on the agenda on one of those meetings, I think we have one on the 24th, I believe,
Yep, you got it.
that people can offer during a public forum. They can offer comments on the budget also. So there's at least 3 different opportunities for people to offer. Plus, they can email us, contact us, and talk about it as well too. So, but thank you for asking the question. All right, move on to item number 3E. Are there any amendments to the proposed FY 26-27 budget tonight? Besides the 5 that are listed under, we have CODA, asset, public art, outside funding requests, and other amendments, which are none so far. Are there any amendments? Okay, entertain a motion on approving the proposed budget for FY 26-27 as amended, including CODA recommended amount, asset recommended amount, public art recommended amount, outside funding requests recommended amounts.
Move approval?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Carly, I'll let you pick up those recommended amounts as were presented by staff for the minutes. All right, entertain a motion setting March 24th, 2026 as a date of final public hearing to adopt the property tax levy for FY 26-27.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Anything else that we need to clean up here today? Well, on behalf of council, thank you to the staff for all the work you've done, all the materials you provided to help us operate and go through this in a seamless manner.
Thanks.
All right, we'll take a short 5-minute break, and then we will then call a regular meeting of the Ames City Council, moving on to consent to order. So about 3 or 4 minutes. I call the regular meeting of the Ames City Council to order, and we will open up with consent. Is there anyone that wants to pull any items from consent tonight?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item 8.
Okay. Anything else?
Number 13, please.
Anything else? All right, entertain a motion to approve consent less item number 8 and 13.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye.
Okay, Gloria.
I had a conversation with our city attorney earlier today about section 10.14 of the proposed license issuance expiration section in the updates to our licensing ordinance. And we were discussing the insertion of the language to replace resource recovery superintendent with city manager or the manager's designee, to make that a little bit more flexible rather than attaching it only to the one position.
Okay. Is there a motion to amend that?
I would move we make that amendment.
Second.
All right. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. And also, council, I just bring to attention as one item that'd be helpful for clarification on that same item. And it is, my apologies, I had it highlighted and lost it.
Grading for the bike path. The bike path grading.
It is under trees and shrubs, section 27.5, tree surgeon license requirements. And it's subparagraph 3, and it says all licenses shall terminate on June 30th of the year issued. And in discussion with staff, they would agree that if the word fiscal was inserted before the word year, that would help clear things up. So all licenses shall terminate on June 30th of the fiscal year issued. So,
I move we amend section 27.5, section 3 to include fiscal year.
thank you. Moving second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Any other feedback? And just thanks to the city clerk's office for working on this and seeking to make it clearer and streamlined. So, all right, entertain a motion on approving item number 8 as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 13, Rowan? What's that? You certainly may. It's on the agenda as being motion, but that's okay. Oh, well, you know what? It's about you, Carly, so go ahead. Yep, the next one, you're correct. Rowan?
This one has to do with East 13th as it crosses under the interstate. And in the future, that'll be an important bike connection to have ultimately. And so I was just going to ask Justin to explain kind of what we're doing there to prepare for that.
Yeah, so the item in front of you is to approve a grant application to the MPO for federal funding. So this project is in the 27-28 fiscal year, so it's a little bit out in the future. But what we will do is with that project, we will evaluate if we can put in some infrastructure in place, either grading a bench or putting something in place for that future expansion, the shared use path. There's some difficulties with the DOT bridges out there, but we plan to look at that through the project, and we can bring that back to you when we have plans and specifications for that.
Awesome. Thank you. That's all I had. I would move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye.
Thank you. All right, move on to public forum. This is the time we set aside for the public to address council on any item which is not on the agenda tonight. Ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. And is there anyone who wants to address council tonight? Please. if you introduce yourself and, yes, please.
Jim Roach, Ames, Iowa. I woke up this morning to the news and I found out that taxing pets is a idea being considered. And that kind of disturbed me. Then I get home and I get in the mail that a new a new electric meter is going to be installed in my house. And I think, I just got a new electric meter. And I went out back and it was 1122. And that's 3 years, 3 months to my calculations. I asked Google and they said a meter is going to cost around $2,100. And I'm thinking, why did the taxpayers pay for new meters just 3 years, 3 months ago and is getting a new one? And then on top of it, it looks like the city will have the ability to control whether or not they like my usage. They call it opportunities to shift or reduce use to save money and energy. And anyway, I hope the pet tax never comes to fruition. And I wish we'd be better stewards of the people's money than replacing electric meters every 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you interested in getting more information on that? Because if you are, Mr. Com, who's the Director of Electric Services, is going to go outside and he'd be happy to talk to you and answer any of your questions.
Well, I appreciate it. No, thank you.
All right. Anybody else want to address council? All right, we will move on to I'll close public forum. Move on to item number 25, modifications to Municipal Code, Chapter 14, Human Relations. Mark?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you is an ordinance that the council directed me to draft that creates a protected class of gender identity under the city's Civil Rights Act, a human rights ordinance, actually. I addressed my memo some concerns that have been raised, and I just simply drafted what the council has requested. I do want to mention that there is a bill going through the legislature that would take away the authority of cities to enact such ordinances. Introduction of a bill or even movement of it does not mean that it's going to pass. It might pass ultimately, but we don't know that yet. We do know it's been assigned to a subcommittee, and it came out of that subcommittee yesterday in the Iowa House. So that's happening as well. But anyway, the ordinance is in front of you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Questions? Questions or comments, I should say? All right, any discussion?
Well, just 30 seconds on this and we can take the vote. I expressed concern in a 3-page letter explaining why I don't believe that we have the jurisdiction to take this up because of a lack of home rule. And then we also discussed the importance of the fact that Iowa has a prohibition of men participating in female sports. These are all expressions of the legislature's desire to remain on the field, as they say, in terms of legislation. What we didn't have at that point was a legislature that was in session. And now we have a legislature in session, and they have come out very clearly with a bill that's come out of committee to explicitly prohibit cities from doing exactly what we're wanting to do. At a time when cities desperately need to reset the relationship with the legislature, who holds all the cards with respect to property taxes, I think it would be prudent given the interest they have in at least exploring this bill, to pause our efforts on this to see what the legislature does. So there is no timing issue on our part. We could delay this and see what the legislature does. And I think that would be an appropriate posture. They've expressed an interest in this. And I think as another governing body in the state, I think it's appropriate for us to pause and see what their actions ultimately are. Because if they pass this, then it's over. Then all the work we've done to pass this ordinance will be in vain, because it'll be clear then we have no authority. So I would move that we simply pause our efforts on this bill to see what the outcome is of this bill in the legislature.
Is there a second? Motion died due to a lack of second.
Here's the thing. I don't think there's a single person up here that doesn't believe the legislature is going to pass this legislation. At the same time, I don't think the legislature over the last several years has shown any interest in listening to what municipalities have to say about property taxes or any other number of things. And so I'm not sure why, when it comes to actually protecting people from discrimination, all people, not just a certain subset of them, why we would set that aside to try to build a relationship with a group of people who have shown absolutely no interest in building a relationship with us.
Well, I can answer that. We don't have the authority to do what we're doing. The Chapter 4 of the Iowa Code defines what gender is, and it makes clear that for driver's license purposes, you have to use your birth gender. So the legislature has made it crystal clear that they are interested in what gender is. They haven't left this up to cities. And so we didn't have authority to do this when we took it up. And certainly now, when the legislature is looking at a bill that would clearly protect or prohibit cities from doing this, I think the only appropriate thing to do is to pause. Otherwise, I just think we're flaunting the home rule. And I've been very critical, more than anyone on this dais, of the legislature's erosion of home rule. But we have to follow the rules that exist.
Okay.
I agree with Amber. I mean, you speak of posture. I would say I am not interested in cowing to what I believe to be bullying behavior on the part of the state legislature. I think as we face a state government that is increasingly inserting its control of our every move, I believe that it is important to make Ames's stance on this issue clear. And like Amber said, in Ames, we believe in equal access to housing, to employment, to education for all people.
All right. Please. All right. Previously we had a significant amount of public input. I'm interested in knowing, who is here in favor of this ordinance? Can you just raise your hand? Thank you. Is there anybody who is opposed to it? Okay. Are you opposed to it? I'm just asking a question.
She wasn't.
Yeah, not Herman. Are you opposed to the ordinance?
No, she's.
Oh, okay. Was somebody else opposed
Yeah,
back
one
there?
was, yeah.
was one.
Was there one? Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask for the person who is opposed. You're welcome to come up and offer public input, and then we'll have one person that can come up and offer. Maybe Senator, you can come up and you helped foster this, and then we'll basically close public input. I think we know where everyone stands. So the person who raised their hand, if you want to come up and address council at the dais, at the podium, you're welcome to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Okay, they're not. All right. No public input. All right, we'll close public input. Well, we won't even open it. All right. Is there a motion? Is there a motion on this?
I would move that we approve on first reading.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Okay.
I would move that we suspend the rules.
Second.
Those in favor of the motions,
Oh,
say
you
aye.
need a roll call on that.
Uh,
Sorry.
Thank you.
Suspension.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
So just as a clarification on this, we suspend the rules only in limited situations where there's a timing issue. There is no reason here that this follows any precedent of what we've done in the past. So normally we would give the normal opportunities for these matters to be brought. So I don't understand why we're suspending rules here. It's counter democratic to what we normally do.
Well, I believe that there is a timing issue, honestly. I would like to get this registered before the state makes their decision, because I too think that it's likely they will. And I think it's important to get Ames's stance on the book on that.
Move on second.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Hey,
Aye.
Is there a motion on third
Move on third.
Second.
and adoption of the ordinance? Roll call.
Aye.
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 nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. We will move on to item number 26.
Explain and pass it up here.
What's that?
Explain what happened.
Oh, yeah. Just for people's information, the ordinance has been officially adopted. It will not be in effect, Mark, once you go through the process of what happens after now.
Yeah, it doesn't become effective until it's published, which is usually the Friday after the council meeting.
So it'd be this weekend, we
Yeah.
officially
Yes.
in effect. Thank you. All right. So this item is concluded, will not come before council. It has been moved through 3 readings, and it's been effectively adopted by the council. Very good. All right, first reading of ordinance renaming Center Avenue to Chandler Avenue. Brian?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This request was initiated by city staff. As you know, we are in the process of moving into the next generation of how we handle and dispose of our solid waste in Ames and the larger part of Story County with the construction of our new resource recovery and recycling campus. But for the last 52 years, we in Ames have had a unique way of handling our solid waste disposal through the resource recovery plant. And that plant was the brainchild of Arnold O. Chantland, who recently passed away at age 98. Mr. Chantland was the city's public works director. And in 1991, the city council approved the naming of the plant in his honor. So as we move on from that facility, city staff felt that it would be fitting to ask the city council to consider renaming Center Avenue, where the plant currently sits, to Chantland Avenue. And fittingly, this modification would also comply with our Public Works adopted street naming guide by helping us eliminate some potential confusion with Center Drive on the Iowa State campus, where we expect with the development of Sci-Town, there may be some intensification of use and a possibility of greater confusion between the two existing names. So we've prepared an ordinance that would accomplish this renaming of Center Avenue to Chantland Avenue, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Brian. Questions for Brian? All right, open a public comment. Is anyone wants to address council on this topic tonight? Seeing and hearing none, close public comment. Entertain a motion on first reading of ordinance renaming Center Avenue to Chantland Avenue.
Move on first.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, entertain a motion on second reading of ordinance rezoning property west of the intersection of Harrison Road and Welbeck Drive from residential low-density RL to suburban residential low-density FSRL with a planned unit development.
Move on second.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Entertain motion on item number 28, second reading of ordinance modifying municipal code, chapter 10, garbage and refuse.
Move on second.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Move on to item number 29, 2023-2024, multimodal roadway improvements, Somerset improvements at Stang Road.
Good evening. We're here to receive direction regarding the design alternatives for Stang Road improvements through the Somerset area. In September, we received approval from council on a Shive-Hattery agreement to perform design services for this project following a RFP solicitation. Part of Shive-Hattery's proposal for that solicitation included the exhibit that you see on the screen right now, which was a pretty creative alternative to what the city had prepared for that solicitation. At the September meeting, I know there's interest from council to pursue this as well as the other alternative and receive feedback on the two. Just for a little background on both alternatives, the key goals of the project are to slow the speeds through Stang in this area, make it significantly more walkable, bikeable, make crossing of Stang a lot easier, and also improve the side street visibility at both Northridge and Aspen. And we also wanted to investigate potential increases to parking in the area as well to handle some of the evening demand that we see in the area. So both alternatives, both A and B, and for reference, design alternative A, what you see right now is the Shive-Hattery design. Design alternative B is what the city had prepared for the RFP.
You want to show B also? I mean, just show them both.
Yes.
Sorry.
So what you see right now is design alternative B. This is what we started the RFP solicitation with. Again, same kind of ideas, utilizing all-way stops on both Northridge and Aspen, utilizing one lane in each direction between those two intersections, and then some modifications to the parking and a designated bicycle facility on the west side of the road to reduce some conflicts between bicycles on the existing path and business goers right in front of the doors. So both alternatives addressed all those goals. They just did it a little uniquely. After review, staff's thoughts, design alternative A is probably a little more consistent with users' expectations. A shared use path, a designated shared use path instead of a two-way cycle track on the road would be a little more consistent with user expectations, a little more comfortable. The parking option on alternative A was a west side parking loop. This reduces some potential conflicts with vehicle traffic and parallel parking. And it also creates some additional benefits to solve some stormwater issues that we have in the southwest quadrant of the corridor. So design alternative A was certainly our preference. We worked very closely with the Somerset Association, who was great to work with. They helped us facilitate both business feedback as well as broad neighborhood feedback, both of which were very consistent and very much in favor of design alternative A, which you see on the screen. The general sentiment, I think, was the expectations were similar to what people preferred, more comfortable for users, a designated shared use path, and very, very overwhelmingly in favor of alternative A. Regarding the parking in the area, both alternative A and alternative B increase the parking, the on-street parking that we have. Approximately 10 additional stalls would be added, as well as the ability to implement some new ADA stalls, which we currently don't have in this area due to the issues with parallel parking. So a lot of benefits here, which is why we're recommending approval of alternative A to be utilized in the design moving forward, which also requires approval of an amendment to perform the additional design services related to alternative A. So if there's any questions, certainly can answer them.
Hey, can you just clarify or reinforce, both options have just one lane of traffic
Correct.
each way, is that right?
Yep. Yep, that's right.
And you can also point out where the bike path would be in option B?
Yep. So so this is design alternative B. This is the city's concept. And there would be a two-way cycle track on the west curb line where the existing southbound parallel parking is right now. That would be converted to a two-way cycle track. So you'd have one bicycle lane in each direction there. Directly adjacent to that, you would have a parallel parking lane and then a southbound lane. If you want to go back to alternative A. Sure. So then to improve upon that with design alternative a designated shared use path would be constructed in that green area that you see along the west side of the eastern half of Stang. So be a dedicated path for through users on bikes, and we'd have the sidewalks in front of the businesses for business use.
And can you also just offer a comment on the council's gotten quite a bit of emails over the past few years regarding safety. And so can you maybe just address how this is going to be improving safety in that area? I think it's especially at the intersections.
Absolutely. Yeah, the speed along Stang has been difficult to manage, especially with multiple lanes in each direction. It causes some unique issues. We've tried some dynamic feedback signs, a few other measures to try and curb that down. But really a more significant change is needed to really curb that behavior. And that's why the always stop implementation on both side streets is really needed here. One other thing I want to mention, we do anticipate some people likely using GW Carver instead of this section of Stang. We've made some other multimodal improvements along GW Carver to help ensure that those crossings remain safe if we do experience more volumes over on GW Carver. Yep.
I think I would add to that too, as Mark was saying, to the safety improvements in the corridor. A lot of it has to do with the crossings. When you're crossing 4 lanes plus the wide median in there, it's a really long crossing length. And so what this option does is really shortens up those crossing lengths for us, which is really critical to helping users of the corridor get across the streets. Additionally, we've seen visibility concerns up there on the north and the south intersections. And what this does as well is with the 4-way stop, you do not have vehicles that are traveling at any sort of speed through there. So it really should help with the vehicular safety as well. So that's 2 main improvements that we're looking at.
And does also funneling 4 lanes into 2 lanes affect speed also?
Yes, it will in that corridor. And obviously with the stop control there, it will do that. So it will help calm speed through the area. I mean, a stop controlled intersection is a very heavy handed use of speed control. But as Mark had said, we looked at a lot of other alternatives prior to this, and none of them were really proving effective. So this is kind of the next step to make sure we ensure people are safe in the corridor.
Thank you. Rowan.
Yeah, can you, we've gotten a few inquiries, and I have 2 about Cyride in the area. Can you just let folks who might be watching at home know what our plan is so buses wouldn't be like plugging up that 2-lane. Can you talk about that a little?
Correct. Yeah, we would, with the project, we'd look at building both inbound and outbound bus stops pretty much right outside of the graphic. So as you approach, you'd have a bus stop as close as we can get it to Northridge and Aspen. And then as you leave and depart, you'd have another bus stop shortly after the intersections. But we'd need to move those bus stops just outside of this one block to allow the traffic to remain open.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Mark, can you show us B, because I think it illustrates my question better. With Plan A, we have the new shared use path running through that center crescent. To the north of Aspen and the south of Northridge, those connection points are both already shared use paths as opposed to narrower sidewalky kinds of connections?
That's correct. Yes, we essentially have a path through the whole area. However, when it's directly adjacent to the businesses and those doors, we have a lot more conflicts within this one block. And that's where there's some justification to move that to a different facility.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Do you happen to have a illustration of the current layout, or can you bring up a map that shows that? Just for I think it's helpful for illustration purposes to see what we're comparing to. And while you're bringing that up, and I like Gloria's question, and I want to take the question towards the south. We don't currently have any bike infrastructure then going from this location down to 24th. We pick up dedicated lanes then at 24th. Am I saying that correctly?
There is a shared use path that goes on the west side down to 24th Street.
Isn't that just the sidewalk?
It's an 8-foot shared use path. We reconstructed it about 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay.
It should be an 8-foot shared use path on the west side.
Yeah, and that continues all the way down to 13th Street.
Right. And so, so currently we have 2 lanes on both the north and south traffic. Is that correct? So we've been looking so far in this discussion at this stretch sort of in isolation, but we really can't do that. We have to think about this and how it fits into the broader traffic flow. And so, Damien, could I ask you, I'm going to throw you a softball, as you think about taking these 4 lanes and making them into basically 2 lanes, and so we're going to do another road diet, what do you project as the implications as we squeeze that balloon and we push traffic out? It doesn't just disappear, it goes somewhere. Could you speak to that?
Well, certainly. And so one of the things that Mark alluded to that we've looked at, and this comes from our regional model and the regional transportation planning, since we're not at the point where we're rebuilding the street, that we're trying to utilize existing infrastructure. So north and south of here, essentially staying north of 24th Street, all the way into Northridge Heights and ultimately up into the new development. It will never be, even in the year 2050, won't really exceed maybe 9,000 cars a day. And so, and even with like peak behavior from people going to and from, let's say, the university as one of the major employers, you're never going to see a traffic volume that requires 4 lanes. Now, I remember when Somerset was first being proposed, the layout for the entire village area, it was only supposed to be a single lane in each direction as a boulevard. Now, at the time, traffic modeling, I would say, is not as robust as it is now. It was generally thought that because it's an arterial, it has to be 4 lanes, like even in the absence of a regional model. I think we saw that on a good example of that is 30th Street. 30th Street up by the mall. It was supposed to continue west. I forgot what it was going to connect into, but a subdivision got built. Bloomington Road is another great example. That was supposed to connect essentially from County Line at some point all the way over to Riverside. So, but that never happened in the cost of going through river alignment. So there's several examples that we could go through of streets that were thought to be major thoroughfares that just won't actually ever serve that amount of traffic or need to, but they were built under a previous kind of ideology of well, it's a thoroughfare where we don't have the modeling to really take on the risk. And so that's where here it was built as a 4-lane, but we know now that it's never going to drive the traffic of what a 4-lane, because a 4-lane should serve somewhere in the 20,000, 25,000 ADT. So, but we're not rebuilding staying from 24th Street north. So really we're just trying to utilize the alignment, utilize the existing infrastructure. But I would say that as we build or need to rebuild other parts of Stang, other parts of roads that are boulevard, like that 4-lane section, that we're likely to bring those down to what the right size of an improvement would be.
And so this is really helpful. Just one more beat on this then. According to your modeling, do the cars that are currently on this stretch, will they stay on that stretch, or will these improvements encourage them to go to GW Carver, or at least some of them?
Well, you see in the traffic patterns, is that we do get a fair amount of commuting traffic, especially from, let's say, like the west part of like the Boone community and other rural. We would expect and want them to go over to GW Carver. So after this improvement is done, we would expect that probably other improvements along GW Carver, and we've talked about them at council, on over to Cameron School Road, that kind of linkage from the northwest part of our town, that additional improvements will be necessary. But so what Mark was talking about earlier is that we've already made PED crossings, so the multimodal improvements on GW Carver are set up and ready to go. And as traffic grows, we may need to do additional intersection improvements. But what we don't want, because this is supposed to be a business, residential walking area, if there is commuting traffic, that just passing through traffic, we would hope that they would choose or see GW Carver as a more inviting route rather than speeding through a residential area.
And so would the schedule of those improvements on GW Carver be accelerated because of this? And if so, are we contemplating when that would be?
Well, I think the biggest one that we're kind of keeping our eye on is Bloomington in GW Carver, the T intersection. If that did see congestion, it's a ways out, definitely, certainly outside the range of our current CIP. But one of the things, and we expect and would kind of hope that in an ideal world, if funding works out as we'd like to see, it would be a roundabout. It's kind of the start of a roundabout corridor to manage that suburban speeds that you see up on GW Carver. But roundabouts, as you know, is expensive. So we could always do, in an interim, do like a temp signal if all we're trying to do is manage stop control, like because it's a two-way stop right now. If we're trying to just manage congestion until we can afford a roundabout improvement, we could always put a temp signal in.
So that's very helpful. So thanks for bringing this up. I think it's helpful just to see what the current is. And so am I saying this correctly, that alternative B is really just sort of taking the existing structure, having it go, changing the lanes and adding the stop signs? Is that correct?
Yes, this is the least amount of change. And one thing that I would add into what Mark was talking about with our background is this design really came from the walk bike roll plan, tool design. Through the feedback of that plan, we know that like Mark had talked about, the store frontages were an issue, a conflict. So this was originally designed, I mean, in the context of a greater plan. They didn't really have the time to go through a detailed engineering analysis. So alternate B is kind of the first stab at fixing the bike and ped issues and the speed issues. Then when we actually hired a consultant, alternative A is, I think I look at it as a further evolution of how can we leverage the alignment, how can we maximize the speed, the walking, kind of like what can we take advantage of what is somewhat of an odd street alignment.
Great, thank you for that.
All right, open up public comment. I know that Kevin, you wanted to address council, you're welcome to. And after that, others are welcome to do the same.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Kevin Burke. I live at 3716 Fletcher Circle. I own 2511 Aspen, only half a block to the east of the north proposed four-way stop. I also own the building at 2730 Stang, which is the one right at the corner on the southeast corner of that proposed four-way stop at Aspen and Stang. I hear that they say they've done their due diligence in asking property owners of getting feedback. I received no notification, nothing about this. I spoke with two other property owners that own properties in the same area that knew nothing about it. I also spoke with a property manager who manages 10 properties up here, and they knew nothing about that. So I think that the feedback that was received of only getting 9 surveys back of the 400 properties up in Somerset is a little flawed. I am concerned about the survey that also was asked, because even though it came back that, 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 liked alternative A, but it didn't give an alternative C. It just said, do you like A or B? Well, only one person was willing to say, I don't like either one. And personally, I don't care for either one as the property owner up here. I'm looking out for my tenants as a four-way stop at that corner of Stang and Aspen. Well, both four-way stops. You have residential or apartments, people living on those intersections. And with those buses that are stopping at each one of those stops with the air brakes coming on and coming off and accelerating, I've got a bedroom that is approximately 12 feet from that intersection. And I'm looking out for my tenants that live in that building. It's not like some of the properties that we've got in Campus Town where you've got retail down below and then you've got apartments above. These are apartments that are right on the street level. So that is a concern. And if you're talking about Cyride taking up more parking to have an area for them to pull off of the road so it doesn't back up the one lane, well, now you're taking up parking in front of the apartments. And you're creating more parking over by the retail. I get that. And there is retail on that side, on the east side as well. But there's limited parking on the east side to begin with. I'm going to ask that you look at alternative 3 that you've been given as far as looking at some other alternatives. And I know Justin has looked at others. They've looked at other alternatives. I haven't seen any of those. I don't know what any of those look like. But I do believe that if you were to take the street through the middle of the crescent, you would square up both intersections, and it would be much safer in both of those intersections if you took the street through the middle. It's the most costly, I get it. But I think there are alternatives. We've got a big speed bump right outside this building. That's a possibility as well. I think there's other things that can be looked at before moving forward with this alternative.
Thank you, Kevin. Are there others that wish to address council? Jerry?
Good evening, Jerry Neal, 916 Ridgewood. So I'm going to speak on behalf of bicyclists. And of the two alternatives that we looked at, we were comfortable with A. It does still introduce some conflict points for cyclists and users, but because we're trying to make that kind of a smooth, continuous multi-user path, and we have the four-way stops put in, I think it's something that people will find a way to negotiate somewhat safely. Now, in our perfect world, we would have had an alternative D, where we kept all the parking on the other side, where there's about 100 empty spaces behind the buildings, and we wouldn't have had any parking out there on the front. So if we're going to bring in any new alternatives, I'd like to submit that as one to think about too. But I think we're a little bit further in the process maybe than that. But I did want to just let you know that this has been a topic of discussion with a number of the bicyclists in town, and that we came down at least with what we were presented tonight for alternative A. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll close public feedback. Could you comment on the 9 surveys and maybe with the process you went through to get public feedback? And I know you can't take responsibility for someone not getting something, but the point is, I think it's an important question, because that's one of the values that council holds, and that is getting public feedback. I know staff is committed to trying to do that. So can you just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, we coordinated closely with the Somerset Association president, leveraged their contacts with all the different associations that you have in the area, both the business centric contacts as well as the entire neighborhood. And that's why we did kind of the multifaceted feedback with the board meeting and the business input that was received through that channel, as well as the Somerset annual meeting from last week, where it's the entire association is welcome to come. So Again, the president handled the conversation and his contacts with the entire association. So I can't speak, I guess, too definitively on that matter, but we leveraged the association's contacts.
So do you, and I don't know, do we know if the Somerset Association includes people who own businesses?
Yeah, it does.
Property
And we had quite a few in attendance at that board meeting where the feedback was provided, the 9 feedback list that was, we also, it wasn't, we had a board meeting, and then we also provided them an online feedback tool that generated the attachment to the council action form tonight. And we provided a 6-week period for that to be dispersed and give people the opportunity to provide feedback.
Mark, could you clarify, and thanks for that, could you clarify, did we delegate to the Somerset HOA the task of providing notice, or did we ask them for their contacts and then we use their list to provide notice?
We delegated that to the HOA or the association president, correct?
So I apologize, I don't remember situations where we've delegated providing notice to a third party. We've always done that ourselves. Can you think of an example where we've delegated in the past?
Well, providing notice is different than soliciting input, just to.
Well, how would you distinguish it?
Well, providing notice is something that we do in required ways sometimes, like with zoning changes, we're obligated in the ways we provide notice, whereas soliciting public input, it doesn't maybe have such a technical definition.
So are you okay having a more relaxed approach to getting notice?
Well, I think we've solicited feedback in other ways before. So we'll just use the Old Town neighborhood group as an example. We got a lot of feedback from that Old Town neighborhood group when we were talking about the Romero House decision in the Old Town, and they kind of served as the public conduit. In fact, Kate did go out and canvass the neighborhood and solicited surveys. And so, yeah, we kind of have outsourced that in the past. Now, I'm not saying it was perfectly done, and I am sorry if people missed out on the notice of that, but I don't think it's I think it's something we have done in the past.
We have done it in the past, but we've also had some problems in the past where notifying the president resulted in it going nowhere. I mean, this doesn't sound like that situation, but it does sound like the coverage was not particularly all-encompassing for this area that's impacted.
I mean, should we be troubled when someone who is an adjoining property owner comes and says that they received no notice? Should that trouble us?
I guess, yeah, I would. It does a little.
A little or a lot? I think it matters.
Well, I think
If it doesn't matter at
Probably
all,
the
then
trouble
why do we
thing.
care? But if it matters a lot, then we should solicit more feedback.
Yeah, I'll say we own a property on Aspen Road, and we did not receive any communication about
So
it.
we should be troubled by that or not?
I agree. We should be. Yes. Yeah. I don't know what the method was of soliciting feedback from the Somerset Association. I'm certainly on their mailing list. I get mailings from them, but yeah,
didn't get that one.
Our property, we did not receive notice. So,
Well, it seems to me that regardless of what was done, we can now say it didn't have the coverage that we probably would have liked to have, and that having more input from the impacted residents and businesses and property owners makes sense. I don't know what that does to the timeline of the project, but I also don't think we should be making a decision about intersections when people right around the intersections haven't had a chance to give input.
So could you speak to this, Mark, in terms of the timing of this? If we were to go about this in a standard, normal way of giving notice to affected property owners, what that would do for the timing of this?
Yeah, there's certainly timing. So an area like this would benefit from summer construction when a project does move forward. hitting summer 2026 right now would be very rushed from a design perspective. So we would want to look at summer 2027 for a potential construction timeframe. So there is time to re-engage the public as necessary.
So just to be clear, there was not the intent to do construction this summer, or there was the intent?
Not at this point, no.
Okay, all right. So the point is that it's not going to severely hamper
Correct.
the schedule or the CIP that was already been.
Yep.
Because what we're trying to bring to council tonight is to move forward with the project development under a certain concept idea.
Right.
So it's to further develop, like this obviously is not an engineered document. It hasn't gone through all the details, especially like some of the modal issues, whether it be noise or stops or things of that nature. And one context maybe I could add is that in the past, and this is something maybe council can contemplate, is that the stronger the association, the more we have used them. And the downtown, the chamber is a great example. We go through them, and we usually have great feedback on that. And up until this point, every time we have engaged the Somerset Association, it has been very positive, and so from our perspective, has been successful. But obviously, we're hearing a little bit different. So Campus Town, for example, used to have a really strong business association, and now that is no longer as active as it is, we have gone back to more of a blanketed mailing. So that's what I'm hearing as far as like some of that feedback goes, is that we've always used a really strong association when they seem to be active.
And certainly we would not discourage utilizing relationships to help us get the word out. The staff recommendation is for, alternative one, which would be design alternative A. And in light of the discussion that we've had, a couple of nearby property owners, does the staff recommendation change in terms of your perspective on the strength of this recommendation, or not? That'd be helpful.
Well, I think the goal of the overall project is maybe one of the things that we're trying to also get an answer in general from council and obviously the public. Like we're not trying to minimize the idea that there's trade-offs being made when we're trying to bring down what was kind of built like an arterial street that shouldn't have been, we don't feel like should have been in the Somerset Village neighborhood area, shouldn't have been built as a 4-lane, but that's kind of the decisions that were made in the past. So if the concept of lowering speeds, improving sight distance, making things more walkable and bikeable, and like Mark had alluded, we're not rebuilding the street. So this concept isn't a perfect, like if we could tear everything out and rebuild it exactly how we would want to do it, which maybe someday we will have the opportunity, but we are trying to leverage existing infrastructure to achieve these safety and operational goals. So that I think is one context of if council supports those ideas, I think I would say that we should move forward. We can have more public discussion moving forward with this concept and developing it. And we always have the opportunity when we go to, let's say, we get down to the point where we're ready to bid the project plans and specs, and there's still not a good public consensus. You could always stop it at that point as well, too. But trying to get through the details of achieving the goals of the safety, of the walkability, of the bikeability, those are the things that, if you support that, I would think we should move forward with developing this alternative.
I want to just speak very clearly. I love the work that you've done, and I've asked you hard questions. All of you have been very articulate in your thoughts on this. But this goes to a very core principle of council. Will we make this decision based in some ways just on staff recommendation and experts and our own belief, or are we going to invite the public to have input on a matter that directly impacts them? I don't think this matters a little bit. Respectfully, I think this matters a lot. And I think it reflects our values. I will tell you, I find Alternative A very appealing, but I haven't heard anything materially from the public. And we've got people who are joining who have never heard of anything of this. So I'm going to move that we direct staff to pause the efforts on this and re-engage the public with whatever our normal standard.
Well, yeah, I think that's good. You maybe want to give us a little direction. You know, we put door hangers there. Or how would you like to do it? Make sure we get it out there. And how wide would you like the spreading of the information? Just want to make sure we do it right this time for you.
Well, I want to be a little cautious in micromanaging that. We have sort of standard approaches in these things. So whatever we would normally do, whether it's door hangers or mailers, I'm
Well, if you have a preference, I want to do it. I want to do it so we don't get back to the same point and you say that wasn't sufficient. So usually, I just want to make sure you're happy with what we would do. So you ought to ask us how we would handle it and give us an idea how broadly do you want to solicit the input.
I'm open to council input as far as their thoughts on how we would do this.
What do we typically do for rental intensive areas? Because door hangers get to the residents, they don't necessarily get to the owners, and the residents will change.
Well, does that mean we wouldn't ask their feedback?
No, not necessarily, but I think that just getting input from the current residents doesn't get at the property owners either. So door hangers get the residents, they don't necessarily get the owners. And contacting the owners gets them, but it doesn't get the residents.
Well,
So
I think Kelly is actually, in planning, we've expanded the radius to like over 400 feet, and they must have some kind of process to extract information on who the property owners are, sending out, notices. In some cases, it may be occupants. In other cases, it may be they may own it as an investment. But it would seem like that would be appropriate to.
Or are we going to, I'm not saying I'm opposed to more input, right? So because I do think that is important, but are we going to create a new standard for this project? And then are we going to follow that for every future traffic project too? Or is it just going to be this project that we do more? I mean, because they did what their standard protocol is for soliciting input, right? It just didn't happen to reach everybody. But it was
But I
their
really
standard.
actually don't know what the association did. I mean, in all honesty, I don't know if you guys, did they send an email out or?
No, I'm not exactly
Yeah.
sure. We provided them information and, it made its way to some people, but
right.
we don't know quite
Mhm.
I mean,
the
it
distribution.
was our expectation that it went to the membership.
And it also seems like there might be a discrepancy between the adjacent business feedback and the neighborhood-wide feedback. If we want to focus mainly on the adjacent businesses and properties, sounds like we maybe had a lower success rate there than what we likely did with the whole neighborhood as far as the annual meeting goes.
Well, and I think whatever we decide that might improve this process shouldn't just be limited to this instance, because I think we need to keep working on how we communicate. So there's no reason to just say it's limited to this project.
Right. I guess that's what I just want us to think about. And I think it's important to remember that the goal of this redesign, I think, as Damien alluded to, is to reduce speeds. So if people come back and they're like, well, I like the option where we don't do anything. That's not our goal. That's not what we're doing here.
Well,
And so it's got to work within the parameters of what our goals are, which is reducing speeds through here. People speed higher than the posted speed limit all the time. We're trying to bring that into compliance. That's what we're trying to do. And improve crossings. So cars or pedestrians trying to cross at some of those tricky spots right now, it's really dangerous. So it's safety and it's speed control. So if people understand and they're giving the input within those parameters, that's okay. But I just worry that we open the door for input outside of the parameters of the goal of this.
But sometimes people don't like what we do. And it's okay for us to hear opinions that we don't like.
Sure.
We shouldn't be afraid of that.
No, I know. I think that I don't want to set people's expectations that any goal that they might want is the goal of what we're trying to do with traffic. Well, we have a posted speed limit. What if people came and they said, I want you to increase that speed limit? Would you consider doing it?
I think we're way off topic. We
Yeah, let's-
we have a
let's get back-
proposal that
What?
we need to figure out how to give
Kelly.
notice on.
Kelly's
So-
right there.
Let's just ask him, where's Kelly?
Kelly,
Kelly, why don't you say how we handle something within 200 feet? What's the standard?
400 feet. I mean.
400 feet. I say. How do you handle that notification?
So if we were doing a development project, we would try to address the issue of local participation and ownership through a mailed notice. Current policy is 400 feet from the project, but we would post signs.
Right.
So someone that's a passerby or was a local resident that may not get the mail would also know about that and have an opportunity to call us. So that's our twofold basic mechanism that we would do anywhere else in the city, is do some kind of signposting and do mailed notice so the owners.
To the property owner?
Yeah.
Not,
So by-
to, not to a rental.
we don't have any policy of doing addressed or tenant-based mailed notice. That's not our policy.
So, yes, just to be clear, you had the ability to extract out who actually owns the property, not who is, it's not just sent to occupant, it's actually sent to an individual who is the deed holder of that property. Is that correct?
So we for sure send it directly to the mailing address of the owner.
Okay.
I believe if it's George Smith, we say George Smith on the label, not property owner.
Yeah,
If we do a tenant-based one, it just says occupant.
So it's not just going to the actual physical address, it's going to the person of record.
It's going to
who
the
is-
owner of record if we do a mailed notice.
Which may very well be the same address, but anyway.
Right. So in a single family area, that's generally true. Once you get to commercial or to apartments, that's less true.
Yeah.
So normally you wouldn't have a 5-page mail, or you'd
Thank
have
you,
one
Kelly.
and reference an email address you could call, have the different options laid out for you. Understand that? Rather than all on the one page.
Well, we've been at this for a bit. I'll go ahead and try a motion on this. I would move that we use the same notice standard as Kelly outlined that we normally do for those kind of zoning changes for this matter.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Do you mean for this matter only, or for all future traffic?
Let's do this matter, and let's go ahead and have a motion to basically, let's get a policy update on what we're going to do for engagement for other projects, but not talk about tonight essentially.
Okay.
Right, we
That's
can bring it back future agenda and just get it resolved, but let's just get this item moving tonight. So there's been moved and second. Any further discussion? So that way 400 feet.
Just-
I
Three,
have a quick
go ahead.
comment.
Go ahead, yes.
If there's any
Can you put your mic a little closer to you?
If there's any further discussion on alternative B, I would just wonder about if the northbound lane on the east side, would the parking angle switch? Because that wouldn't work.
It's back in.
It's back.
It's
It's back in only?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
They're
Never
trying to
mind then.
confuse people.
Ugh. Never mind then. Sorry, thank you.
I think that's actually also a safety thing that they're looking at and trying to have back end versus forward. So the 400 foot would be around the entire area then. That's the expectation.
I'm just trying to maintain
Yep.
consistency
Yep.
with what we've
Okay,
done.
all right. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I would move that we put on a future agenda discussion about future notices like this.
Second.
All right. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. So if there is an adjustment, there was on the agenda an adjustment for Shive Hattery. You'll need to review with them in terms of what other adjustments might be necessary to do additional schematic design, I would presume, from standpoint of additional developments or research if that's necessary.
Yeah, we'll reconvene on that matter.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, move on to item number 30, resolution on the annual comprehensive financial report. Corey?
Good evening.
You're not going to sit down at the,
You want us to sit
you're not
down?
your regular place.
Well, thank you. We're here tonight to present the city's annual audit report, formerly called the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. And I'm here with Kara Natty. She's our accounting and reporting manager. So pleased to report that the city received a clean audit opinion, which is great. That means that our auditors found our financial statements to be accurate, complete, and in full compliance with our auditing standards, which is great. They noted there were no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies and no significant findings. So really proud of that and Karen and her team. Just one quick note on timing. So the last several years, we've been trying to improve our timing as it relates to the presentation of the annual audit report. And that's important, particularly as we prepare for budget and we try and get the information to the city council, the public, and anybody else timely so that they can make decisions. And so typically our goal is to get that presented to you by the end of the calendar year. We failed to meet that goal this year. Kind of an extenuating circumstance that we don't happen often is there was a federal government shutdown. And so the Office of Management and Budget at the federal level wasn't able to provide any of the some of our requirements for our schedule of federal expenditures and accounts. So we had a little bit of difficulty getting some of the requirements from them. So that ultimately delayed our auditors. So we're a little bit later than we would like to be. And our goal in the future is to be here at the end of December. And then just one other thing before I turn it over to Kara to talk about the audit. You'll notice in our council action form, there was a notice of related party transaction. And so what that means is that we are limited in what we can do in terms of transactions with employee spouses, related parties, that type of thing. It's also a violation of our conflict of interest policy in our purchasing policy. And so that was noted. I think one of the things that we're doing to address that in the future is to proactively work with departments and educate them on our purchasing policy. That's probably something that we can do from a preventative measure. And then our accounting staff is also going to look monthly at reoccurring charges and make sure that if we see those things, we're reaching out to departments to make sure that they're aware that that violates the purchasing policy. So not a huge material thing, but something that we're going to be looking for in the future to try and avoid that comment. Turn it over to Kara for a little update.
Good evening.
Would you pull your mic just a little closer to you, please? Thank you.
Sorry. I'm going to just talk high level about the annual comprehensive financial report for year ending June 30th, 2025, beginning with the governmental activities, which are mainly funded and supported through property and sales taxes. They include activities such as public safety, public works, culture and recreation, and general government. The net position, which is comparable to equity in private sector, and includes long-term capital assets and liabilities, improved from last year by approximately $14 million for a total of $248 million. The fund balance, which focuses on short-term spendable resources that do not include long-term capital assets or long-term debt, modestly improved by $790,000, and it totaled $83 million. Because this was due to an increase in private donations in capital projects, partially being offset by increased staffing expenses in fire, parks and rec, and public safety. There are 3 major funds and 21 non-major funds in the governmental activities. The first major one is general fund. It includes activities like police, fire, streets, parks, planning, and administration. It had a $14.5 million fund balance, and $13 million was unassigned and available for general use. This is $3.5 million more than our minimum fund balance requires. This reserves exists to help the city absorb unexpected costs, protect against revenue fluctuations, and provide stability when capital projects and reimbursements are delayed. The second major fund within the governmental activities is the Capital Project Fund. It supports major construction and infrastructure projects. It ended with nearly $33 million fund balance, which was an increase of $6 million. The increase was driven by planned borrowing for capital projects, private donations for the Fitch Family Indoor Aquatic Center, and the timing of when capital projects incur costs. The third and final major governmental fund is a debt service fund. This is used to make our bond payments. It remains stable at approximately $4 million, reflecting predictable and well-planned debt repayment schedules. For the business type activities, I'm only going to discuss as a combination 10 of the 11 proprietary funds. I'm going to remove Mary Greeley Medical Center. It includes cities' utilities like electric, water, sewer, transit, stormwater, parking, and resource recovery. It had a net position, which I described earlier, includes long-term capital assets and liabilities. It was stronger than the previous year by almost $15 million for a total of $425 million. The city's utilities continue to operate exactly as designed. They pay their own operating costs, cover their own debt payments, fund their own capital improvements, and most importantly, they do not rely on the general fund to support their day-to-day operations. Overall, the city's non-hospital utilities remain financially healthy and well-managed. During the year, the city took approximately $11 million in additional debt, making our total across all funds almost $238 million. $78 million in governmental activities and $159 million in business-type activities, all of which are tied to planned capital projects, things like infrastructure and facilities that will serve the community for decades. Even with that increase in debt, the city remains $253 million below the statutory debt limit of 5% of total actual assessed valuation as set by the state law for governmental general obligation bonds. Over the course of the past year, the city invested nearly $48 million in capital assets. This includes the construction and improvement of streets and transportation infrastructure, utility systems like the WPC facility improvements, and parks and recreation facilities, which include the Fitch Indoor Aquatic Center. These long-term investments are generally financed through long-term borrowing, which matches the useful life of these new assets. In summary, the audit confirms that the city's finances are accurate and well-controlled. The city maintains strong reserves, utilities are financially self-supported, and debt levels remain manageable and carefully planned. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions?
Kara, thanks for the presentation. This is a huge topic. State of Minnesota facing $9 billion of loss of federal funds. And so the topic of the integrity of government use of funds hasn't been as important in decades. So these audits are really important for maintaining the public's confidence in our handling of public dollars. Very thorough report. Is there anything that you would say is a recommendation of things that we can do better? Or it just seems like an A+ report. Anything you can think of we could do better?
Well, the related party transaction, we're running reports and we are working on our timing, and that is, we call this our off season, and we're trying to get our work papers to be more streamlined and use more of our analytic reporting to make it go faster, to hopefully be here in December next year.
Well, I consider that an A+ report, so thanks for that.
Other questions? All right. Well, does anyone in the audience want to address council on this topic? Seeing none, we'll close public input. It's a pleasure working with your department, Corey. Great leadership. And Steve, credit to you also for all of this. And we're pretty fortunate to have this kind of report and a quote clean audit and things that can be addressed. I'm sure that every year you can find something that can be improved upon. But I have the privilege of talking to the auditor every year. They have to call and see if I know of any malfeasance. It's like, I don't think so. But they speak very highly of your staff and your efforts, and appreciate you trying to get it done sooner. I think in years past, it's been a lot later in the year. So anyway, with that, I entertain a motion on resolution approving the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ended June 30, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you for coming.
Corey, where will this be maintained on the city's website if people would like to do a deeper dive on this?
Yeah, so we put it on the finance department website, and then we also have past historical documents. And so if you're looking for our previous ones, they're also just off the tab on the right side of the page. So
Great.
we try and keep at least 5 years out there.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right, Brian, resolution adopting city council values, goals, tasks for 2026, 2027.
Hello again, Mayor and Council. As you'll recall, in January, the council got together for the development and review of its council goals, values, and tasks. These are 2-year priorities for the city council, effective January of 2026 going through December of 2027. We anticipate, as usual, that we will perform an update or a refresh of these in January of 2027, as we have typically done halfway through the goal period, where we'll provide you progress updates as to how we've done achieving progress towards those objectives and tasks, and then the council has the opportunity to amend them. So incorporated into your packet is the list of values, goals, and tasks as we as staff understand them from your conversations. We are happy, of course, to make modifications to them as they are yours to direct city staff over the next 2 years with.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
I do want to point out, this was our discussion on January 17th. There weren't a lot of motions. It was an informal type of get together. So we might have misrepresented some of this information. So if you like to make any changes or clarification, we'd certainly welcome that in case we left something out.
I just had one suggestion. It's under value B, task 1. It says analyze 1, resident demographics, 2, target housing price points, 3, possible incentives to match income. And then there's a sentence where it says develop a shared understanding of affordable housing, which is in quotes. I believe that that is a defined term. So I think we should strike that sentence from the task. I think the task stands without that sentence. And I think that sentence is confusing because if we don't have a shared understanding for the term affordable housing, you can Google it and it's there. Anyway, that's just what I was thinking. If we mean something else, we should say what we mean. But I think you could just strike that sentence from that task.
I thought that that was trying to understand what constitutes housing affordability in the community, which is very different from the defined term affordable housing. So I don't know. I don't recall the discussion specifically at our goal setting session.
It just seems like the rest of the task that's there is enough to get at what we were trying to do.
Okay.
So I would move that we strike the sentence, develop a shared understanding of affordable housing from B1 T1.
I'll
Right.
second.
All right. Any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I would just draw council's attention to C1 under T3. And it says continue discussion regarding the event center at the link and possible partnership with ISU and Iowa DOT for an entry corridor beautification project. I think those are actually separate topics. And so I would just suggest that we cut those in two, keep the continued discussion regarding the event center at the link, and then C1, T4 become explore possible partnership with ISU and DOT for entry corridor beautification project, and then C1, T4 becomes C1, T5. Just separating those into two separate ones.
I would make that motion.
Second.
All right. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Anything else that council likes to talk about or bring to our attention tonight? Brian, we talked about a lot of things there. I appreciate your diligence in recording, everything and helping bring it to fruition. There's no further comments. I would entertain motion on resolution adopting the city council values, goals, and tasks for 2026, 2027 as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to item number 32, hearing on rezoning of the property located at Iowa State University Research Park, 4200 University Boulevard, south of current Research Park boundary from Agriculture A to Research Park Innovation District RI. Kelly?
Good evening. So we had this property under a public hearing back in December, and then at the last meeting, we said, please do not finish the rezoning process and restart it tonight. So the description of the property was increased in about an acre of size. Otherwise, the findings in relation to it becoming Research Park RI zoning all stand, and we're still supporting the proposed rezoning.
Okay. Any questions for staff? All right, declare a public hearing on this item to be open. Is there anyone who wants to address council on this topic tonight? Seeing and hearing none, declare the public hearing to be closed. Entertain motion on first reading of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 And is there a motion to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings and adoption of ordinance number 4585?
So moved.
Motion. Second.
All right, roll call on the motion to suspend the rules.
Aye.
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 Entertain motion to approve the ordinance on second reading.
Move on second.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 And entertain motion on third reading and adoption of ordinance number 4585.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 All right, moving on to item 33, approving preliminary plat. Kelly?
Yes.
For this project, that is.
Yep. So there's a couple of conditions with this preliminary plat. So I want to make sure it's clear what's happening. It's a little unusual. So the plat is in front of you. You're creating one development lot, which is lot 1, which has the frontage on University on the left side of this diagram. And then a large outlot is being created behind the site. And what's unique about this proposal is because it has a large amount of frontage, like 850 feet, and discussions about how road networks should be completed in the future in this area, the design of the site didn't support creating a large industrial location for a facility that was desired to be here. And we discussed that a road alignment just to the south of here would be satisfactory for being able to create access into the other 120 acres in this area. So the applicant has requested that we waive our typical access management policy of not allowing for additional driveways on arterial streets. The request is really based on that even although a street intersection theoretically could be created here, we chose not to do that, but multiple points of access are still needed for large facilities, even though we don't have a local street planned for this area. So staff is supporting adding a secondary driveway for lot 1 based on the fact that no street block exists to create a secondary access point for this project. The condition is that with the waiver, the traffic engineering department would review the actual driveway configurations with the site development plan to verify it meets SUDA spacing, and then anything that might be necessary for turning movements to make sure that that's addressed appropriately. So staff, the traffic engineering staff is confident it can meet that standard. We've had preliminary reviews for that. So staff is supporting that waiver with this plat. Now, the other part that is unique is along the north boundary of this site, we have I'm going to go to the location map here a second. We're asking to plan ahead for water looping requirements. This project is getting to the it's getting quite lengthy in terms of its relationship to our water main. Collaboration Way is where we have a looped water main from the research park for Riverside and University. And then we have water main coming down University that serves the site just to the north of here. And then it's going to come down and serve this site.
Can you point out, Kelly, where the collaboration way is? I know
It's just off the map. So it'd be up here in the header. This is essentially where the tennis bubble is right here. And then you have the other Alliant Ag Research Facility built on this property here. So Collaboration Way is essentially where location map is.
Thank you.
So to have a robust water system, both redundancy and fire protection, we need looping. So that at this point in time, because there's planned development to the east, the research park has requested that we allow for a 10-year deferral on completing that water system improvement. So as a condition of this plat, we're asking that a development agreement is approved at the time of final plat, where the research park will be the entity responsible for completing that water main improvement. So it'll run along the north side of this property, and then it'll have to go through this outlot that the research park owns to get all the way over to Riverside and complete that connection. That could be done in multiple configurations. So if a development project comes in, the water main extension can happen with that development project and satisfy the requirement. Or if there is a large delay in seeing those development projects come along, the water main would then be installed by the research park within 10 years. So we're supporting that flexibility of allowing for a 10-year period for that water main to be done. The 10-year period would start at the time of final plat. So those are kind of two unique conditions here to move this plat forward.
Kelly, can you pull up, there's a drawing that shows the water and sanitary sewer in different colored lines?
Oops, sorry, wrong one.
I think it's the third.
Yes, the third one.
I think it's the third hot link. And I think it's second to last page. Down, keep going. There you go. Can you zoom in on that a little bit or not? So what I think I heard you just say is that the water main would actually run on the north side of the property line. Is that correct?
The looped water main will. The
Okay.
primary main to serve the property will be in University right now.
Okay, so the loop is not necessarily connected to the very end of the water main. It can be looped
Anywhere.
a certain distance.
It can be looped anywhere to create redundancy. It would be ideal to be at the end of that water main, but we've looked, practically speaking, it could be off that south end through the outlot, or it could be up here. So we created the easement on the north to create that option of doing it either way. I think the best estimate is if development does occur to the south or the east, it would come through that area off of University. If it doesn't occur, it'd be easier to do it on the north property line.
And could you explain why what the importance of the loop is?
So for public works, they're always looking at quality of service, so water turnover within the pipe. But for the most part, it's about redundancy, so that there is two ways to feed the water system generally. Not all parts of the city have that, but whenever possible, we look to create redundancy in the system to maintain water pressure and turnover of water.
Okay. Wasn't also fire protection part of that?
Yeah, so the redundancy is part of that, maintaining the water pressure for fire protection.
So is Chief Higgins Fire Department totally okay with, or do they not participate in this kind of conversation? If they come off on this example, if they come off from the very south end to feed the building, there's that one length that would be essentially just a single line. Is that
so? Fire is part of the development review committee and part of the general discussion. I think just looping in general is the expectation. We don't typically define an absolute location where that looping must occur. Okay. So fire's trying to get to the best they can within the reasonable limits of the project.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
Kelly, very exciting project for the city. We need this housing. But I had two small questions and sort of dovetailing with the mayor's. So talk to us about the sizing of this. How because there's some element of unknown about how this area develops eventually. What's the thinking on the sizing of the lines?
So when we looked at back in December, when we've had the first hearing on the rezoning that you just approved on the last item, we reviewed a concept plan for the remaining land, and that allowed for staff to work through with the research park's civil engineer possible layouts to help really manage alignments of the sewer. But it also did answer the question of did the sanitary sewer, which is the green line here, whether it needed to go all the way through the property. And the determination was that any property to the east or south of here will have a separate sewer system that'll connect at a northeast angle over to Riverside and not use this line. But this line does have the capacity at that northwest corner to go west. If ISU land were to become available to the west, it could be extended off of the corner here and serve on the other side of University Boulevard. So we think for sanitary sewer, we have both directions covered in terms of alignment and sizing. And then an 8-inch water main, I believe, is what we're doing on University. That's the typical water main size. In Plan 2040, we don't really show other development in this area other than this 160 acres that the research park controls, because there are some limits to sewer capacity in the area. So I think we've looked at the water main capacity as being able to serve some development to the west that we don't even have in our comp plan. And then we've definitely designed it to work with all the remaining research park controlled land that's to the east and to the north.
Yeah, so that's really helpful. And final question. I was trying to think, are there any precedents? I couldn't think of anything that's similar to this. Does this feel to you like this is sort of a one-off situation, or could there be other situations where this approach could be used in the future?
Are you talking specifically about the looping?
Mm-hmm.
I would say this is a little different because if we had, let's say they had platted all 160 acres, we just would have said the water main is happening in coordination with all the other lots that are being platted. And that's typically what you see like in a residential subdivision where we're looping water mains. We just don't make an issue of it because it's happening incrementally with each phase in a residential subdivision. Here, since they deferred even annexing a lot of their land, that's why we made it a specific issue at the time of preliminary plat. So it's, in my mind, it's probably a one-off that you won't see again because of just the choice of the property and how they chose to develop the larger amount of land that they have.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
That makes me feel better, Kelly, because I don't recall ever having a discussion about looping before. And I mean, we usually talk about extensions rather than looping. And so I wondered whether I even was understanding it correctly. But
Yeah, so I don't think it would typically get to the council as an issue because it's usually worked through with staff or Public Works is using that as a CIP project. If it's after the fact, they're doing it as a CIP project. So like an example would be out east on 13th Street. Long ago, 20 years ago, the city planned for looping between 13th Street and Lincoln Way. So you don't hear us talking about how do you loop 13th Street. But in the comp plan, we talked about as you grow further east on 13th Street, so like past the mall, the former mall property, a future looping would be needed. So we did some of that exercise with the Plan 2040 scenarios to talk about how long-term looping would need to be accommodated. It's one of the discussion points as we looked at Hyde and how we looked at Greenbrier and George Washington Carver areas, how those things are connected into the systems in multiple ways. So we do try to do that with our long-term planning, and you rarely see it as a primary issue with a specific project.
One more question. The property, which is still in the county, water mains running by, and you got a sewer main on the back. When we ran out to Prairie View, there was an option, I think, if people wanted to tie into the water main, but they were not. Oh, wait, they were probably in the city, though, weren't they?
Everybody in East Industrial was annexed, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, different. This isn't, I just didn't know if that person, they wanted to have city water or city sewer, if they could.
They would have to work through the Xenia territory transfer process before they could connect to the water.
Question answered. Thank you. All right, open up public comment. Does anyone else address council on this topic tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public input. Any further questions? Otherwise, entertain a motion on one of the alternatives listed in the council action.
Move
form.
alternative one.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right, move on to item number 34, development agreement outline for Domine 1 Cottonwood Extension.
All right, so tonight we're back with the first follow-up from your December discussion on incenting residential projects in the city. So Damani 1 was this site in South Ames. What I have up on the screen is the original PRD approval. So Damani is principally what is described as like zero lot line patio homes. And then at the south end of the project, which is the Green Hills extension component of it, there's some custom home lots. So where you see the colored purple and orange outlines, those are the patio homes. The blank lots are custom homes. So when we approved the PRD, we knew that Cottonwood needed to be connected to finish the street network. We put a condition in with Damani's original approval that said no development. Really, the phasing plan actually originally captured some of the lots on the north side of Cottonwood, but we allowed for that full development to occur north of Cottonwood and said no extension of Green Hills could occur or more lots be created until Cottonwood was completed. The rationale there was there is a substantial cost with a road connection. You want to make sure the project can carry that cost. That's why we had a phasing plan to make sure that those things could be accomplished. In December, the incentive request from the developer was for the assistance of the Cottonwood extension, and then the developer would complete the platting of the rest of the project. So essentially from Cottonwood south, that would be their obligation to complete. The council voted to select option 3 for all the projects. So in this particular context, the expectation was that the city would take on the responsibility of Cottonwood, and then the developer would subsequently come along and finish the Green Hills extension and connect into Ansley. The project was identified as being a project in fiscal year 27-28 in the December discussion. That was important to balance our general obligation bond financial elements of how we would finance this. It wasn't able to be done sooner than that. So after talking with Mr. Arneson about his interest for the project, he had a strong desire to move faster than what we were able to do. So we have a compromise proposal that's outlined in this report where the developer will now take on a share. Sorry, I keep clicking on the wrong thing. Take on a share of the road improvements that were originally described as a city responsibility. So in this diagram, what the essence of the proposal is the developer now will have the ability to extend Green Hills Drive at their cost and complete that Lunetta connection to Ansley. Once that is complete, the city will come second, and we will choose to implement the Cottonwood improvements that are on the east and west side of Green Hills. So this diagram is depicting the general proportionality of improvements here. The developer will have to stub a little bit of water and sewer infrastructure to the east so that then we can come in and complete those water and utility extensions and include the services to those 5 lots on Cottonwood. So as we indicated in the report, this arrangement of improvements is, as Public Works believes, is within the cost estimate of the $371,000 of city obligation that we would take on. So it's within that financial range of what you were thinking. The developer's probably taking 15 to 20% of the overall project cost on by taking that intersection component on this year. So if council is satisfied with the specifics of the outline in this report, the next step would be for us to complete an actual development agreement that would relieve the developer of ever constructing Cottonwood, permit them to do Green Hills, and plat all of those lots at that one time. And then the city would take on that obligation at a time in the future when we're able to program that into our CIP and complete that. We would come back and do that. Our goal would be to do that in the time frame before of next fiscal year. But as we said, there's a lot going on with the legislature about how certain financing mechanism will work. So until that's kind of sorted out, we don't think you can commit to that precisely, but that would definitely be our goal, is to move ahead with that project still as indicated previously.
Questions?
So Kelly, the thin green line that's kind of, it looks like a ladle or something, that's a path, right?
Yeah, so in the PRD, they had an obligation to connect to a mid-block sidewalk that exists on Aurora, which is that street to the east. So that green line is a private HOA sidewalk through an outlot that connects to another sidewalk and an outlot. The reason it's highlighted here is in our discussions with the developer, the sidewalks on the development lots, we really think those are responsibilities of the home builders, and they generally want to do those themselves because of constructability issues. So we highlighted that as a potential offsetting project to potentially mitigate costs that might be related to a proposed mini roundabout in the intersection. So when the city said that we were going to take over the Cottonwood project, we talked with the traffic staff, and we had started the thought process of this should have a speed control element in it that wasn't originally contemplated. And with the templates for mini roundabouts that we're going to be using out on Wilder, planning or traffic staff now has a model of how they would like to do some of these things, and they were anticipating putting one of those into the design if we were to do the project. So in the conversation with the developer, we've said we would like to explore the feasibility of putting that mini roundabout in there, assuming that's possible. There could be a cost differential with the essentially the round median in the middle. And if we needed to have an offsetting project, the only thing that Public Works staff could identify would be that sidewalk is something that might be above and beyond the Cottonwood improvement.
And that actually would connect to some existing.
There's a stub sidewalk in that dashed line on the Aurora side over there. So it will be a connection to an existing stub sidewalk. So in the outline, there's a little bit of an unknown in terms of the mini roundabout feasibility. Staff will work with the developer's engineer as they complete the improvement plans to get to final plat, and then staff will be able to understand its feasibility and cost implications, and we will roll that into that final development agreement in detail, assuming that we work out how that's supposed to be done.
When this was initially envisioned back in December, was it anticipated and budgeted that there'd be utilities installed also, and utilities run to the lots like that?
So I think so in December, we did not dig into great detail all the assumptions. So the developer, in their request for $371,000 of assistance, they did include utility extensions. We described it as completing the street network as a city requirement, and that was part of the understanding of why we would do that. But the total dollar amount that they first asked for assistance on was a combination of utilities and paving. I would say our past precedent is if we were doing the project as maybe we would have planned in the future, I don't think the city would be paying for the services to the lots. We'd probably ask for reimbursement. But in this case, because of the cost share that they're doing, we were making up some of that cost to the developer by saying we'll include the services then to those lots.
And per the report, staff is comfortable that all these trade-offs will not exceed what council had talked about.
At this point, the working estimate for the municipal engineer is we would be under $370,000.
With including the pathway, that's the
I think it depends on the Cottonwood costs. The thought was that if I think we said 350 to 370 right now. So I think it's possible that's all under 370 still all in. I think there's a little bit of an unknown there in terms of the final details on that mini roundabout.
And the other question I posed this afternoon, that was, it's probably not feasible to try and get this all done at one time. I know we can't, it's not in our bonding and cash flow, but I didn't know if there's any cost savings for mobilization for a paving contractor to come in here, utility company to come in here, do it in one fell swoop and work out some kind of a deal. And maybe it's not, maybe it's just as cost effective to do it in two phases.
It's not as cost effective, but we did not have a way to divide the costs this fiscal year with the developer.
Yeah.
So it would absolutely be a better project to do it at one time. We just don't have the resources to do it this fiscal year.
Okay. Unless you want to be the bank. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, talking to Keith, this was the best option available.
Okay. All right. Other questions?
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for being flexible and trying to find a way to make this project happen sooner. My question, again, like the prior one, I'm trying to remember where we've done something quite like this. How does this affect with bidding? So projects that we would otherwise do ourselves, going through a public bidding process, the developer can handle without going through that. How does that change the overall cost of this? This is sort of curious where it's sort of a hybrid effort on this. Any thoughts on that?
Well, in this case, it's not really a hybrid. We are going to go through a public bidding process to do the green part of this drawing. So the developer's only doing the yellow, no public bidding on the yellow, normal developer cost, normal developer process to secure their own contractor to do that work. And then we will come back using the improvement plans prepared by the developer so that it's tied in and coordinated perfectly with a uniform design. We will take those plans and put it out to bid to complete the green parts, which includes the water and sewer in addition to the paving and the sidewalk.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we don't have, unfortunately, we just don't have that mechanism to reimburse the developer because of the public bidding requirements on a public improvement.
Got it.
That's helpful. Thank
Got
you.
Other questions?
If you want a poster child for the legislature to change how public improvements and public bidding works, this is that.
Yeah, so
Like, we should just be able to reimburse people efficiently for doing things that are
so I had
that are good for the project.
The same thought. Wouldn't it be nice if we had some flexibility on this, that the public could get perhaps a better priced project if we had some more flexibility on that? And I
Absolutely.
I don't remember another project like this. So anyway,
We used to have that ability.
oh really? Okay.
Yeah, so you've never seen anything like this, Tim. At least since I've been here in over 10 years, you've never seen a proposal like this.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be familiar with trying to split it this way. We do offsetting projects in a limited circumstances, but it's very rare. You have nothing like this that you've seen.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Well, I just think this demonstrates that we are really trying to work and
Sure.
come up with creative solutions to move the needle. I appreciate staff's willingness and getting in the trenches and, working through this. And I mean, as long as we're not overshooting what we had committed to originally, to make this thing work and get some more housing opened up, to me, it's just a win-win from the
Yep.
standpoint of accelerating what we're trying to accomplish. So anyway. Open up public input. Keith, you want anything to share tonight? After Keith, anybody else is welcome to share.
It's Keith Arneson, 4114 Cochran Parkway, and this is the tail end of a project that I'm doing. So I do appreciate what I think Kelly and I have a good working relationship, and there is some give and take on this. I don't think any of the numbers have to be perfect, quite frankly, at least in my regard. You have 5 people you'll be dealing with, but in my regard, and just so you kind of understand, maybe one of my motivations for doing this, I was very excited about the fact that you went ahead and basically authorized the concept. So I think Kelly would admit this too, that I move faster sometimes than maybe people want me to move. But so what I tried to do was I tried to say, all right, how is this going to work for you? If your goal is to put inventory into the marketplace, then I don't really think you're going to want to wait 2 or 3 years or longer, depending on when you get the answers you need from Des Moines. So I said, why don't I go ahead? I'll leapfrog that. I'll put everything in. And then I'll do the second thing that I offered you. And that was that not only will I make more inventory available at a greater choice too. These are different types of lots that I'm currently developing, but I won't require that my company build the homes. And so I do have interest. I've been exploring that. So that is my motivation for moving forward. As far as being the bank on Cottonwood, I will have 5 lots that'll be sitting there waiting for you guys to finish that road. So that's my banking obligation to you, I guess. Are there any questions?
No, thanks for accelerating projects, and we'll look forward to seeing it happen.
Yep.
Input? All right, we'll close public comment. Kelly, if there's going to be a small roundabout, would that affect this layout? Would it impinge on lot 1 or lot 9 at all, or there's enough?
So at this point, we don't think so. That's why I'm putting an asterisk by that in terms of feasibility. We've given a profile of that to the developer's engineer to make sure that when they put that into the template of the street, that they don't see a complication with the usability of lot 1 or 9. We're pretty confident lot 1 is not an issue. Lot 9 would be, I think, the only one. Lot 9 is really tight, and the original approval has a sidewalk that moves up to the curb line. because they're really small lots. So it's tighter than any normal intersection. So that does have to get looked at.
All right. Are there any further questions? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Move alternative 1.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Very good. Thank you, Kelly. We'll move on to disposition of communications to council, and we have a number of them. One is from Dale Higgins, City of Maxwell Mayor, requesting release from 28E agreement for solid waste services. Is there an interest to place this on a future agenda?
I would move we put it on a future agenda.
Second.
Okay, moving second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Second is a email from Joyce Biggie regarding opposition to annexation of the Iron subdivision. Is there is it okay to respond thanking her for the email, or do you have other direction?
I did respond to her.
Okay. All right. Number 3, email from Cody Olson, suggestions for city investment in North Grand Mall. Is there interest in doing anything with that, or just thanking him for his? Or
I would move we thank him for his input on this too. I would maybe just add that with uncertain budget times, some of his suggestions we'll just have to just consider, but we can't promise anything.
Okay. There's those in favor of the so a second.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Number 4, email from Sam Brandt, query related to reassessing current rental regulations.
I think a few of us have corresponded, right?
But some people have. I think
Yeah.
this was just the email that he sent us all in response to that, with a few specific suggestions about driveway
Yeah.
gravel and width and handrails and something.
Well, just the point is, during our goal setting session, there was some conversation about the fact that I'm trying to bring more things back to council for action and decisions. So if it's more or less, if everyone feels they've been responded to them and they're satisfied with that, we can just drop it. If there's no interest in taking anything up, Rachel, do you have anything you wanted to comment on this one or not?
Yeah, I think I'd be interested in getting a memo from staff on the specific 3 items that he mentioned.
All right. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Just to clarify the 3.
There's 3 items in the email.
Handrail, gravel for driveways,
Gravel for driveway.
and
Sump pump.
sump pump discharge locations.
There's a moved and second. Is there
Yeah, I think I'd also kind of be interested in the memo and knowing, which of these are requirements for owner occupied too in Ames. So I don't know if I'd be that interested in changing rental requirements that are,
The same as owner.
same as owner occupied requirements. But if it's more onerous, it might be something to consider.
The sump pump one is, I know.
Well, if we're going to ask staff to respond, if there's not interest in considering some of these, we could also pare it down into specific items that you want memo on. Motion was for all of it.
1, 2, and 3.
All right. Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Is that Amber and Bronwyn, right? Motion carried. Next is an email from Jane Olson, opposition annexation. Anyone responded to Jane or not? If not, I'll respond.
I move we ask the mayor to respond.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Next is concerns regarding these are smart parking meters.
No, electric meters, right? Smart
The ones that.
Utility
Utility
meters.
meters.
Did we respond before?
I thought we were.
I thought we were-
We did. This is the
There's been a
second
res-
time.
Yeah,
What?
Staff
there's been a
meeting.
response already.
Yeah, there has been a response.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. No response, or what direction you want?
There's already been a
There's been
response.
Okay.
No action.
All right, and then when the last is Justin Moore, Planning and Housing, request for waiver to subdivide land in Story County. It's a memo that was sent to council. Is there an interest to place on the future agenda?
I would move we put it on a future agenda.
Second.
All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. All right, move on to reports of governing body. Anything from Discover Ames?
No.
Ames Regional Economic Alliance.
We had a meeting. I forget. There was a presentation about just kind of the changing face of funding streams with the state clamping down on property tax. It was all about how to try to generate more sales tax. And other good things happening, but that's all I remember. Sorry.
Story County Emergency Management has not met since the last council meeting. How about transit?
Nope, nothing here.
All right, move on to council comments. Emily, get us started tonight.
All right. So the local affairs committee has been working on agenda topics. So I'll send you guys some of the ones that we're maybe thinking about, and then just hear input from all of you about maybe additional things you would want to discuss. And then also, I just wanted to comment on the goals, tasks, values. I definitely got the order wrong, but when I was reviewing those, there's a lot of them that students have brought up to me already. So I'm just very appreciative that those are in there. And I think some of that comes from our joint meetings with student government. So thank you for that. And then just looking forward to the joint city council student government meeting February 25th.
Thank you.
5 to 7 in the Memorial Union Sunroom.
Thanks. Tim?
Nothing tonight.
Rama?
I was just going to mention a thing. I'll ask for a motion next meeting, but I just want to give you all a heads up. I got a communication about a traffic issue. And the part I am going to ask for a memo on next time is to ask for a memo on how to prevent left-hand turns from northbound Grand Avenue onto Allen Drive. Which is right north of the bridges there. You know, you have the train bridge and then the Main Street Northwestern Bridge. So I didn't give you a warning, so this is my warning, and I'll ask for it next time.
Oh, not now.
Well, we'd like to give each other a heads up, so
Well, thank you.
I'll just do that next time.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
That's all.
Nita? Amber?
Nothing for me.
Yeah,
Nothing tonight.
Nothing tonight.
All right.
I guess I can give the same
Oh.
type of heads up about Stanton and Lincoln Way, that I would like to bring that forward for a memo.
Or a staff report, yeah.
For a staff report. So again, just a
Or analysis.
a heads up
Give me a study.
for that
For where now?
area,
Lincoln Way?
Stanton and.
It's one the students have
Way.
brought up before. I think you would ask for a study, a traffic
Yeah.
study on that, see how we can handle that.
Yeah.
Haven't we had that before then?
We do, but I guess we want to update it, remind you what it is and see when it's coming. We'll give you a report on that.
Still very challenging on my way here. There was one car stopped waiting for a student. The person in the other lane didn't see
Yeah, we can get
that.
you a memo report where we're.
It's crazy. So, yeah.
All right. Entertain motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Really, no, good meeting.